After the first 3 weeks of the 2025 NFL season, I think the Buffalo Bills look absolutely unstoppable. Josh Allen is basically unstoppable at this point. James Cook is dominating, and more than that, the Buffalo Bills offensive line looks like a top 5 unit. And we're going to talk about some of what we've seen over the first 3 games. We'll talk about some of what we saw against the Dolphins. We'll talk about some of these players that are flashing. Spencer Brown, to me, looks like a top 10 offensive tackle. I kind of rank him as my 4th best, and we'll talk about why a little bit later on. But let's start right away with Josh Allen, man. I want to start with why I think right now there's no coverage that is able to slow down Allen. When you play Lamar Jackson, teams know that you can blitz Lamar, and as long as he doesn't get out of the pocket, as long as your corners don't end up getting beat in those situations, the Ravens struggle a little bit when you blitz them. Now, obviously, by blitzing, you're also setting yourself up to explosive plays, so you can't blitz 100% of the time. But the way to beat Lamar is to blitz him on certain downs. When you look at a quarterback like Brock Purdy, you cannot play man-to-man, right? The route concepts that they design, those crossing patterns, very hard to stop in man-to-man situations. With Josh Allen, historically, teams would blitz him. Teams would try running mixed coverages. That doesn't work anymore. And teams are trying to figure out which coverages do work. And right now, there's nothing that has slowed down the Buffalo Bills offense. They're averaging 34 points per game. Josh Allen is on pace for 4,300 yards, 39 total touchdowns. The guy's looking unstoppable out there. And I want to just talk to you guys about some of what teams are trying to do against Josh Allen, how teams are trying to mix the rules and how they're trying to kind of figure out how to stop Allen and just why it's not working at this point. We've seen teams try to blitz Josh Allen. It's not working. He ends up just hitting for 25, 30 yards super quickly. And teams have stopped doing this real quick, right? You realize really, really quickly when you can and can't do something against the quarterback. So teams aren't not going to blitz the Buffalo Bills the way you would other quarterbacks. Teams have tried playing cover 1 man-to-man defense. Josh Allen just takes off running. He's so hard to contain within the pocket. You're not going to arm tackle this guy. He's quickly able to kind of get out of there. And in man-to-man situations, if your linebackers and corners have their backs turned towards the quarterback, that's bad, right? Quarterback's going to take off running. He's going to pick up 20, 30 yards. And we've seen him do this multiple times at this point. So teams are trying to go and figure out, hey, how do we slow down an explosive offense, specifically in zone coverage because we can't play man? Well, you can play cover 2, cover 4, right? You can play the 2-shell high look. And teams are doing this, but Josh Allen also understands how to beat cover 4. There's 2 different ways to beat cover 4. And I'm going to just show you guys both these plays and how the Bills have kind of been able to beat cover 4. So this first play against the Baltimore Ravens in week 1 leads to a touchdown. You're going to essentially beat cover 4 by splitting the safeties, right? You get a wide receiver to run kind of towards the middle of those 2 safeties. And then you even got to suck in the linebackers, especially in a red zone situation like this one. And you're going to get a quarterback with high velocity, a quarterback with good ball placement, a quarterback that can fit the ball into tight windows. And on this one, Kincaid's going to end up getting a touchdown. Now, that was week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. Yesterday against the Miami Dolphins, very similar area of the field, right down into the red zone area. The Bills, believe it or not, came out in the same exact formation as that first play against the Ravens. Now, one of the things in the NFL that ends up happening is teams watch a shit ton of tape. In the red zone, they'll watch every single route combination that you've designed, and they'll try to guess which ones you're going to try to run again. Now, the Bills ran this route combination down in the red zone one time up, which was that Ravens play, up to the point where they then tried it against the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins thought, hey, we have this shut down. We know exactly where the ball is going to go. It's going to go to Kincaid right between the safeties. And it's a completely different play. And, the other way to beat cover 4, if you're not going to go right in between those safeties, right behind the linebackers, is by designing 3 different areas to attack on one side of the field. Cover 4 struggles against this because usually you'll have one guy that's going to influence, right? He's going to just run straight. He's going to essentially suck in both safeties. And then you have a guy that has to choose. He can either play the vertical hooks where he'll take the middle of, like the mid-level of the defense, or he can take the flats. And in this instance, you see the Bills are going to run a fake screen to the left, so the guy takes the flats. And then you get Kincaid to kind of slip right behind this guy, and Josh Allen hits him, and this one scores a touchdown as well. So those are the 2 ways to kind of beat cover 4, and at this point, that's not really working either. Then you can utilize the cover 1, cover 3. Now, cover 1 is man-to-man, so that's not going to work. So cover 3 looks just like cover 1. The thing with cover 3 is there's ways to beat cover 3, and I think Joe Brady's done a really good job designing a cover 3, cover 4 beater in pretty much every single route concept. As long as Josh Allen can recognize what the defense is in, there's going to be a beater in the route concept. So in a cover 3 on this play here, for example, the Buffalo Bills are going to run a dagger concept. The linebackers don't get deep enough in the mid hooks, and you can see that Josh Allen's going to hit it right behind where those linebackers should have been. And this one picks up a number of yards. Now, one of the adjustments that teams will try to do is they'll run cover 3, but they'll make rule adjustments. So the Ravens do this all the time, where the Ravens will say, hey, we're going to play cover 3, but we're going to play cover 3 a little bit differently. What we're going to do is if you come out in a 2x2 set, for example, or a 3x1 set, for example, what we're going to do is the guys that have the vertical hooks, we're going to have them actually carry the seams. We're not going to have these guys get super vertical. We're going to have them carry the seams, which in that instance, the quarterback has to recognize that, right? You're not going to be able to hit this to the inside, right? If you try running like a post or an over route behind those linebackers, you're not going to be able to hit it there because you got help essentially from those guys defending the seams. But when you do that, you're essentially going to give up the vertical hooks. You're going to give up that underneath area of like that cover 3 corner. And on this one, you're going to pick up 15 yards on a deep curl route. Josh Allen just sees everything. He understands the rules. He understands what teams are trying to do. He understands a coach, right? And I'll just kind of throw this out there as well. Brian Flores' defense is going to be different than Vic Fangio's defense. It's going to be a little bit different than Pete Carroll's defense. The concepts that you're putting into these defenses, the rules, the adjustments, it's going to be different. Cover 3 is not cover 3 on every single team. There's differences among the teams. Some linebackers will have to carry over routes in cover 3. Sometimes safeties will carry those over routes. So right now the Bills understand every single rule that's kind of happening, and Josh Allen sees it. To me, Josh Allen kind of looks like Tom Brady from the mental aspect of the game, right? Like he's just reading things super quickly. He's seeing everything super quickly. And he's dominating out. There's nothing that has even phased Josh Allen at this point. The Buffalo Bills are probably the team to beat at this point. I don't know which team's going to end up beating them, man. There's a chance. And I don't want to say they're going to go 17-0, right? But they're going to win 15-plus games this season. I don't see many teams having a shot against the Buffalo Bills. Even yesterday against the Dolphins, that game was super close. But it didn't really feel like it was close. To me, it felt like the Buffalo Bills knew they're going to win that game. Let's switch focus. Let's talk a little bit about some individual players that have really flashed over the first 3 weeks. This first guy is a guy that I absolutely love. Spencer Brown, when he came out of college, I said this about this guy. I said, I think there's a real chance Spencer Brown, if he develops right, could be a top 15 tackle. He can play 15 years in the NFL. And he has not only developed right, but there's a chance he's going to play 15 years in the NFL. Now, the guy's still only 27 years old. I think he's very, very, very close to being an elite offensive tackle. Right now, if you ask me who my top 5 offensive tackles are, of course, say Penei Sewell, Lane Johnson, Tristan Wirfs. Those are definitely the top 3. And you can put them in however order you want. But at number 4, Spencer Brown is arguably the 4th best offensive tackle right now. I would make the argument he is the 4th best offensive tackle. Now, you can obviously probably, have like 5 different guys as like the number 4 guy, right? So, some people will say a guy like Trent Williams or Charles Cross, Colt Miller potentially as well. But I think Spencer Brown's right there in that same conversation. And when you put this guy's tape on, it is elite. Some of what this guy does is absolutely impressive. When it comes to pass pro, one of the things that Spencer Brown does so much better than other guys his size is the movement that they play with, right? How quick this guy is side to side, how quick this guy is when he gets vertical out of his pass set, when he's going to jump set right on a play action plays, how quickly he makes contact with those guys. It's impressive. I've seen, defensive ends, like TJ Watt, Michael Parsons type of defensemen, right? Guys that are super fast, explosive upfield. I've seen this guy beat those guys to the landmark, 10 out of 10 times. Spencer Brown's movement is truly elite, and I think that is what allows him to be a guy that could potentially become like that next top 2 or 3 offensive tackle in the NFL. And I don't say this lightly. I'm not trying to overhype a guy just because it's a Buffalo Bills video. Anytime I do other content where I'm talking offensive line, I'm always throwing Spencer Brown's name in there. So I really do think this guy is elite. Now, the movement is one aspect of it, but then the technique is a whole different. You're going to see plays with this guy where he snatches down defensive linemen. He'll get his hands, to the shoulder pad area, the collar, area of the shoulder pad, snatch guys downwards. He removes all leverage that these guys have. And what ends up happening, if you're a defensive end and you're trying to bull rush Spencer Brown and he takes you into the dirt, you don't want to bull rush him anymore, right? You don't want to be in the ground. And, just the way he snatches, it's elite. More than that, he understands how to use independent hands. And I think this part of what he does is what makes him truly, truly elite. Most offensive tackles in the NFL do not use independent. I shouldn't say most, but there's a big part of offensive tackles that don't use independent hands. There's two ways to make contact with the defensive end if you're an offensive tackle. You can use independent hands, which I'd say probably like 25% of tackles do. And then you can do what is called the catch technique, right? Your hands kind of land around guys or underneath guys. Some people will also try to do the, I don't know what the technical term is, but like the left hand will land high, the right hand kind of lands low, and they'll try locking in and holding, which Brown does as well. But a lot of the time, what Brown does is he uses independent hands. And the benefit of using independent hands is, if you have a guy that's going to try speed rushing you, you can get vertical and you can just stand right there and wait for that guy to make his move. And as soon as he makes his move, you can put your left hand out there. And most of the time, these defensive ends are going to try to swipe your arm down. Some guys try to cross chop. And as soon as that happens, you'll still have that other arm to throw in there and to essentially counter. And then you'll have your third arm, right? Essentially come back, not third arm, but like, it'll be the third strike that you can have. You can go back and forth with your hands. If you're a guy that's going to catch people, the disadvantage is, well, if TJ Watt's coming off the edge as an offensive tackle, you need to catch him at some point, right? You need to go and essentially grab onto him. And the disadvantage of that is if you try grabbing onto TJ Watt too early and he uses some sort of ghost move on you, well, you just essentially lunged towards TJ Watt, and a ghost move means he's going to get right around the corner, right? You're essentially going to miss TJ Watt. If you use independent hands, you're going to sit there and let Watt come to you. And I think that's part of what makes a guy like Spencer Brown so damn good as a pass blocker. He understands leverage. He has the movement. He has the hands, the ability to punch. He might not be a top 4 or 5 offensive tackle today, but he's 27 years old, and most offensive tackles hit their prime when they're 30 and can easily play well into their 30s, right? 35, 36. Offensive tackles can continue to play when they kind of hit that stage. And I think with Spencer Brown, that's definitely going to continue to that's going to be kind of the path that he's going to end up on, right? And I think he's going to be a lot better than it's not going to take him until he's 30 to be like a top 5 tackle. I think by the end of this season, a lot of people start to say this. I think by the start of next season, he's going to be considered a top 5 offensive tackle. He's really, really, really good. I think the Buffalo Bills got an absolute star at offensive tackle, right tackle specifically. And the offensive line that the Bills have is pretty good. James Cook is having a lot of success for the Buffalo Bills, and it's behind that offensive line. Deone Dawkins is solid, but David Andrews and even Osiris Torrance, man, those guards are moving people out of gaps. Those guards are, double teaming and climbing, and they're getting up to those linebackers. They're doing a phenomenal job right now. Even Spencer Brown, the movement that this guy generates on running plays is really impressive. When Spencer Brown makes contact with linebackers, he's taking these guys 7, 8, 9 yards out of those gaps. When Brown is making contact with D tackles and maybe it's a double team block, he's moving people, and you're seeing massive chunk plays happen behind Brown, right? So Spencer Brown's very solid as an offensive tackle. The Bills, I think, have a top 5 to 7 offensive line. Right? They're having a lot of success running the football, and James Cook's phenomenal as well. We'll talk about Cook a little bit later on. Let's switch focus. Let's talk about a defensive guy. Let's talk a little bit about Deone Walker. This is a guy who I absolutely loved coming out, and some of you guys may have already seen the tapes that I've done of Deone Walker. This was during the draft process. If there's one thing I loved about Deone Walker was the fact that he was long and tall, but then he had really good movement, and he was big, right? Like some people are saying he was 350 pounds coming out. He had really, really good movement. Now, he didn't have all the success at Kentucky that some other defensive tackles have had in the past at other teams. Kentucky does this weird thing where they only have 3 defensive linemen on the field at all times, which means 2 of those 3 defensive linemen are basically going to get double teamed by offensive linemen. And then the 3rd defensive lineman is going to end up getting at least chipped by a tight end and running back. And you're not going to generate a lot of pressure if those are the fronts that you're showing. But at the Senior Bowl, when Deone Walker got to play in a normal defense, this guy dominated out there, right? This guy was absolutely kicking every single offensive lineman's ass, right? And those some guys who are drafted in the 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round. Deone Walker looked really, really good. And if you guys did not know this, Deone Walker was my number one defensive tackle coming out this past class, right? I truly, truly felt he's better than Mason Graham. Now, Graham might be a better run defender, right, especially from the college tape. But Deone Walker has better movement, and he has pass rush technique, which Mason Graham did not have. Right? Mason Graham's movement wasn't that great, and it definitely had no pass rush technique. Deone Walker was my number one defensive tackle because of that. And I think early on, he's only played 56 snaps, only 23 pass rushing snaps, but the guy is impacting plays, and we saw it yesterday against the Dolphins, where he just quickly beats this interior offensive lineman, gets right over the top, generates pressure, and from that pressure, the quarterback ends up throwing it early, and this play right here basically wins the Buffalo Bills the game. Now, of course, Deone Walker doesn't get the interception, but he generates the pressure where I think Tua throws this a little bit early because he sees this 6'7", 330-pound monster coming right at him. But the impressive part of this pass rush to me is the movement he gives right at the beginning. Right? It's called the hezzy move, where he fakes inside and quickly jumps back to the other side. That movement right there is what allows guys to be good pass rushers and guys that struggle. Go watch Jalen Carter's tape. Go watch Joey Bosa's tape if that's who you guys want to check out. Go watch the elite pass rushers, and you will always see a little hezzy move right as they get out of their stance. Right, it's a fake inside, fake outside. Right, essentially sets up your pass rush. Deone Walker has this. Right, he's already perfected this. This is something he did in college. It's something he flashed at the Senior Bowl, and it's allowing him to have pass rushing snaps where he's winning. Again, only 23 pass rushes this guy has had. And technically, I think if you look at like Pro Football Focus, he only has like 2 or 3 pressures, according to PFF. Ignore PFF numbers. There's plays where he's actually winning. Right? He's actually winning his one-on-one block. He's actually getting past that guy. He's actually generating pressure. And maybe the quarterback gets the ball out, so PFF doesn't count it as a pressure. But the guy's winning at the point of attack. And don't overlook how that, when he starts to play 50 snaps a game, will actually translate into more sacks and pressures and quarterback hits. What this guy's doing is really impressive, especially this early on in his career in a limited amount of snaps. But don't overlook the development that he's taken, right? Deone Walker has taken one major development in his tape. He's staying low against the run. He's locking out with guys against the run, and people do not realize this. So the criticism I had for Walker, and I think I did a film breakdown of him in preseason as well, but the criticism I had was sometimes he was just a little too high. He's not doing that anymore, right? He's locking in with these offensive linemen. He's holding them up. And the Dolphins don't have a weak offensive line. They're pretty good on the offensive line. Deone Walker is holding guys up. He's getting his eyes in the backfield. He's shedding when he needs to. And he still has that explosive first step, right? He still has good movement. He still has the swim move that he goes to often. And he's generating play, like he's generating disruptive plays. Deone Walker looks really good. He's obviously developed as a run defender where he's staying low. He has that leverage. I'm telling you guys, I think Walker's going to end up becoming a top 10 defensive tackle in about 2 years from now, right? As soon as he just fully figures it out. He's only 21 years old, so, just kind of keep in mind, in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, he'll still barely be 23, 24, 25 years old. Really like what Walker has kind of flashed. I want to just give a couple of shout-outs, just a couple more guys. Joey Bosa has helped change the game, similar to what Walker did against the Miami Dolphins, right? That Tua interception. Joey Bosa has done that for the Bills as well multiple times, right? He has 3 forced fumbles, 13 pressures, a sack, a couple quarterback hits. But he's had plays where he's actually impacted the play where maybe it's third down, the quarterback has to get the ball out quickly. Maybe he forces a fumble on a quarterback like we saw against Justin Fields. Right, Joey Bosa has had impactful plays. When you bring in a guy like Joey Bosa, the Buffalo Bills, and they've done this a couple times now, they go out and they'll bring in free agents that are like Joey Bosa, right? Guys that are maybe getting up there in age. They've been with 1 or 2 teams over the course of their career, and they're essentially trying to win a Super Bowl. And what's happening is you're bringing these guys in not to say, hey, go out there and get 20 sacks and, generate pressure. Like what they want in Joey Bosa is they want him to make impactful plays, game-changing plays that win you a game essentially. And he's doing that, right? At least early on. And if Joey Bosa is able to stay healthy, I think he'll have a really good season for the Bills. I think at this point, the Bills are the Super Bowl favorites. I don't know which team's going to end up beating them on their schedule right now. Can they go 17-0? It's possible, right? Greg Rosal's looking good out there. Christian Benford's really dominant against the run. I saw a stat after the second week of the season that he was considered the best run defender among defensive backs. Right, he's at the top of the list. I think it was by Next Gen Stats. They're the ones that kind of put this out among DBs. The guy's having a really, really good season against the run, but he's always been a solid run defender or solid tackler out in space. And then let's wrap it up with James Cook. James Cook is arguably, I shouldn't say arguably, James Cook at worst is the third best running back in the NFL. And what's crazy is people have, they've been sleeping on Cook for a couple of years. This guy was really talented as he kind of came out. 2 years ago, this guy, I think, kind of broke out. Last year, he's, probably, I think statistically, may have been the second best running back last year. But James Cook, I think, is really, really elite. And I think people don't realize this. And I want to show you guys a couple of plays that this guy's making where you're looking at it and saying, that's freaking impressive as hell. There was a touchdown that this guy had where it should have probably been a 2-yard gain. He just makes a guy miss here, ends up, cutting it into a different gap there. Just like that, 40-plus yards to the house. James Cook is making plays in the Buffalo Bills, for as good as the offensive line that they have, as good as the offense, the run scheme and the coordinator that's been, essentially designing this play, designing this offense. As good as it's been, James Cook is better than all of that, right? He is a top 3 running back. You can make the argument Saquon Barkley's better. You can make the argument Bijan Robinson's better. James Cook's right there, and you can even make the argument Cook's the best. To me, this guy's having so much success right now. And the Buffalo Bills, they're averaging 5.4 yards per attempt. With Cook, 284 yards on his 53 carries. He has 4 touchdowns to the ground. He's also made some nice plays through the air as well. And I feel like even then, Cook's kind of being underutilized as a pass catcher. I feel like the Bills should design more screens to Cook. They should design more one-on-one opportunities for him. The guy's an elite football player, having so much success early on. Again, I don't know who's going to beat the Bills, but I hope you guys enjoy this video. I did this video a little bit differently than I've done the past videos. If you guys have tuned into any of this content on this channel where I cover the Bills, and I've done some videos, usually it's on like one play, right? Maybe I'll cover Osiris Torrance. Maybe I'll cover, a defensive tackle or a linebacker. This video is a little bit different because I can cover 4 or 5 guys. So if you guys enjoy this video, definitely let me know down in the comments below. And of course, before I end the video, I want to just give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this channel. YouTube does demonetize all of these videos, so we make literally nothing from these videos. We're lucky if they don't demonetize it right away. If they let me have this video go for 3 days, at least we get some sort of revenue. But pretty much every video is demonetized by the NFL specifically. But before we go, shout out to the sponsor of this channel, ProfitX. This is America's #1 sports prediction market. ProfitX is peer-to-peer, so you'll be playing against real users as opposed to traditional sports books where you'll be playing against the house. This means that ProfitX is going to give you much better odds. If you guys want to make picks on the NFL, ProfitX has you covered. But if you're like me and you want to make picks on multiple other sports, ProfitX has you taken care of there as well. From the Ryder Cup to the Premier League, ProfitX has pretty much every major sport. And one of my favorite parts about this platform is that if the odds don't already exist that you want on any given player, you can basically just request it. ProfitX will make it happen. And if you use my link to go sign up right now, ProfitX is going to give you $200 in free money. For every dollar that you put into ProfitX, they will essentially match it. So make sure you guys go check out the link down in the comments below. Again, thank you guys for tuning into this video. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, and I will see you guys next time with another video.